How much of this is a worry, though, about if the New York City partnership is too far out there, saying, you know what, we're not into socialism. We don't like socialism. We don't like this mayor. We don't want him to be the guy. That backfires. That the city says, well, and this you hear people say, well, if the real estate guys and the business community don't like him, we like him.
Something must be good, right?
Yeah.
The whole thought that money, raising SuperPAC money, etc., to go after somebody is, I think the public objects to that. I think that backfires.
You think? That was Kathryn Wylde, President, CEO, Partnership for New York City. If you are unfamiliar, that's an amalgamation of 350 New York City corporate giants, law firms, and banks. In other words, Wylde serves as the New York City business community spokesperson. Even she is admitting voters hate bought and paid for political candidates. So let's go to this clip. It's CNBC host Andrew Ross Sorkin, who admitted to Wylde that the business community is completely united against Mamdani.
At least privately, the people that I talk to in the business community, almost to a man, to a woman, say they have a particular view, which is that they don't want Mamdani to win. They may be a toss-up as to Adams or Cuomo or something else, but they sort of have a singular focus about that, and privately are telling each other this is no good, and they want to somehow see if they can affect it, but they don't know how.
So later in that interview, Wylde made an interesting admission that the New York City business community is most concerned about Mamdani's position on Israel.
There's the Bibi Netanyahu stuff about, when he says, that he's going to have him arrested by the NYPD, which is, of course, completely against federal law. And I think there's a lot of people who are Jewish in this city, irrespective of your views about Israel and this and that, who say that it sends a signal that there's something, that there's a anti-Semitic view that's being espoused underneath all of this.
Yeah, and that is the single biggest issue, I think.
You think that is?
Absolutely.
That or the police?
No, I think the anti-Semitic view. New York is a city that has a long history relationship with Israel. Our investors funded the whole startup nation, the building of Israel, et cetera. I think that's a big issue.
All right, so let's end with Wylde bemoaning the fact that the business community does not have more influence on elections.
Business, particularly public corporations, does not participate in local politics in a visible way because you can't win. Your employees are, their young employees are definitely Mamdani people for these companies. So the business leaders are not taking that kind of position. In addition, the whole financial industry, which is the largest sector of our economy, can't contribute because of federal regulations that prohibit financial contributions by financial advisors to state and local politicians. So they basically are on the sidelines because they can't donate. So the business community, I think it's unfortunate and that we ought to be trying to fix this, but the business community really is not that engaged on the politics of the issue. They're very worried about the substance of the issues and what a next mayor will want to do, whether it will be productive.
So Cenk, let me get this straight. They had all the influence and all the money forever. And now this will probably turn out to be the bloodiest mayoral race ever in New York City because somebody needs to fix the fact that they could have less influence over this election.
Yeah. God, I love that whole segment. There is a cure for the sin-sick soul, a balm to make the wounded whole, as Martin Luther King said. I love the smell of SuperPAC panic in the morning. And there they are on CNBC. Oh my God, the SuperPACs aren't working. What are we gonna do now? How are we gonna bribe all the politicians so they work for us and not the voters? Did I say that out loud? You kinda did. You kinda did. You saw her, she's like, and later she's like, the state and local officials, we can't even buy them. This is an outrage. They might actually vote to represent constituents. The horror. And the anchor's like, the horror. This is just, If the donor class can't control the politicians and have them work for a foreign government, what kind of country are we living in? I mean, there were so many incredible confessions in that small segment. Then she's supposed to be representing the business community. That's already a giant problem. In fact, that's a bigger problem than the foreign government issue in Israel, et cetera, because mainly it's corporations that buy our politicians. Big pharma, big oil, defense contractors, and the list goes on and on. Big sugar, car manufacturers, everybody's buying politicians, and she's supposed to be representing them. That lady that you saw, that nice little like grandmother looking type, like, oh hey, oh golly gee, corruption isn't working anymore, I'm so upset. Okay, and now if she was saying that on behalf of the corporations she represents, it's already despicable and a bigger problem because they have a lot more money than Israel or any other government, right? But then, amazingly, she doesn't even say that. She goes, no, I'm not even worried about the people I'm supposed to be representing. But that's on brand for her not to worry about the people she's supposed to be representing, right? And then goes, no, they're gonna raise the taxes, business. That's just, we don't really care about that. Israel. That's what we care about. Now, Israel has to control the mayor of New York. By the way, if you say that Israel controls the mayor of New York, you're an anti-Semite and your entire life should be ruined. But we need Israel to control the mayor of New York. What is this, Confession Central? Yeah, I like this. And you know why they do this stuff? It's because they're on mainstream media and no one's gonna challenge them. Do you think CNN is gonna do a segment about, oh my God, there was this outrageous segment on CNBC where it looked like supporters of Israel's genocide are outraged that they can't buy an election and they're demanding to buy it and they're super mad about it. That's an outrage. We're living in a democracy and the voters of New York should decide. Well, of course no one in mainstream media is gonna say that. So they just are now just saying things willy-nilly. Earlier in the show, we showed you Netanyahu's like, well, obviously friends of Israel have to buy TikTok and then make sure that TikTok only does things we like. So you're on tape, you're just saying it. And we showed you Mitt Romney and other politicians, American politicians going, oh yeah, that stuff we were saying about China and TikTok, we're not worried about that. No, Israel wants to control TikTok. We're not saying it, you're saying it. So, but my favorite, those are all amazing confessions, and I love that the super PACs aren't working anymore. I want to come back to that in a second. But of all of those, maybe my favorite part was, they're like, well, look, man, we got to even hide it from our own employees. Because normally business interests buy off the politicians. And that's a great day in America for the very few people in this country that rule over everyone else. High five at CNBC. But now our young employees are objecting. They're all Mamdani people. And by the way, they're Christians and Muslims and Jews and atheists and Hindus and Buddhists. They're everyone. The young Jews are voting for Mamdani. So we always say it's not about religion. And I love to see that it is not about religion. But for them, they're like, why don't these young Jews get back in line too? They should all be in favor of a genocide. So can you imagine just arresting poor Netanyahu just because he's committing a genocide and murdered 20,000 Palestinian kids, well over 65,000 people, just because they had a worse civilian death rate than Hamas, because they do programs like Where's Daddy? They wait for someone that an AI computer picked out to go back home and murder his whole family with him. Just because of all that, they just want to arrest poor little Netanyahu. The business community in New York loves Netanyahu and wants to protect that genocidal maniac. And then of course she throws in, well, we're worried about anti-Semitism. So you're not worried about bigotry towards Arabs who you're blithely dismissing their lives? You're not worried about bigotry towards Muslims? You're not worried about the voters? You're not worried about democracy? You're not worried about any of that? But your main thing is, well, if you arrest someone who's a genocidal maniac, who by the way, Netanyahu had to fly around Europe because he was afraid that the European countries would now arrest them for the crime of genocide. But if you agree with all of the European nations and all of the rest of the world, on CNBC, they're gonna say, anti-Semite. Good news, not working. Kiss our ass, okay? So you can go with an anti-Semite BS. Oh, we have to protect the genocide, okay? You can do all that. No one cares anymore. And oh, super PACs aren't working anymore. anymore. We can't bribe effectively. And oh God, yummy for my tummy. Give me more of that. Sharon, what do you think?
I mean, I love it when you talk like that. Is it enough though? With all of their power, the connections, the infrastructure, is the backfiring effect, the anti-establishment effect, do you think that'll be enough to overcome it in this race that, has such a prize, wrestling New York City and control of it, or keeping control of it? We know there are people who voted for Donald Trump because you're not going to tell them who to vote for anymore. They're tired of the establishment and they just want disruption. But here in this concentrated, mecca of banking and finance and everything, do you think it'll be enough? The young people that you talk about who have come together, this coalition, who love this man?
Well, look, so that's why this race is so important. And that's why we care about it so much and they care about it so much. It's not about the policies, guys. I've told you this before. I barely agree with Mamdani's specific policies, but I'm good to have him try new things. I love it, disrupt the status quo. Even if I don't agree, I don't have to agree with it. I didn't run for mayor, he did, right? And I didn't win the Democratic primary in New York, he did. So let the brother try and let him upset the status quo, okay? But on top of that, the much more important thing here is if the Eric Adams leaves the race today, if they drive those people out of the race and they do all their propaganda and their ads and call everyone anti-Semites, even Jewish people in New York, if you don't agree with Israel's genocide, then you're an anti-Semite. Everybody's an anti-Semite, right? So they try all those dirty, dirty tricks that they do every time. They use all of the media to do it, and it still doesn't work. Oof. The reason why they're panicking so much is because they're worried about losing control. They're like, no, the voters cannot pick who they want. It has to be us. We in the business community, the Israel supporting business community. And she's being very specific about it, right? It's not me saying it. You heard with your own ears her say it on tape. That their business interests were less important than Israel's interests. So these are not all business people. These are definitely not all Jews. That's not even close to true, or even all Jewish businessmen. No way that that's true. Okay, I know so many wonderful Jewish businessmen, and not just in young people, but among all the different age groups and every kind of category you can imagine, who are horrified by what Israel's doing. No, these are specifically pro-Israel zealots, radicals in the business community saying, we must control these elections. And if we can't control these elections, it's gonna be a big problem for us. And all of our dirty tricks aren't working anymore. So that's why this New York mayoral race is monumentally important. It's either they win and they go, oh, good, we're back in control and no one's allowed to dissent, right? Or the voters for the first time, and God, I'd be so proud of New York if you did this. Starting in New York, and with so many beautiful Jewish American voters who care about justice, coming in and saying, no, you don't control us anymore, and you don't speak for us either. No, we're picking this guy, and what they're most worried about, Sharon, is if the forces of democracy and justice can do it in New York, they could do it anywhere.
Yeah, that's why I use the word bloody, because I get all excited and think, wow, could this really happen? And then I remember, if it does happen, what will they do? They'll stop at nothing to trip him up. Cart before the horse, but wow.
Yeah, look, real quick on that. The New York press, mainstream media will be vicious towards Mamdani. Throughout his entire time, they'll try to smear him at every turn. Like every word will be twisted into something that they claim is anti-Semitic, and nonstop, over and over again. They will attack and attack and attack while pretending to be objective. How do I know that? They already did it before the primary. They attacked Mamdani 24/7. Well, the fact that the New York Times and other media pretends to be objective is just the funniest thing of all. They're like, no, we objectively hate Mamdani, that anti-Semite who doesn't bow his head to Israel. He can't be him. Oh, hey, look, Cuomo. Oh, you killed grandmothers in nursing homes and you took bribes from real estate agents. Oh, he's a lovely guy. What a fascinating comeback. The real story here is Andrew Cuomo's comeback. What, Mamdani won? And now they're pretending to be unbiased and kissing up to him a tiny bit because, he might have power. I can't wait to see their minds melt when they're like, well, we serve power, but we serve Israel. Which one do we pick? Okay, how about serving your readers and viewers? I know that's a wild and crazy idea for mainstream media. I'd say try it, but they'll go out of business before they try it.